Obesity is a complex disease involving an excessive amount of body fat. Good evening, everyone. You're joining IMED, and Ishan Pereira is here, and we do have with us consultant endocrinologist from National Hospital Sri Lanka, who is also the president of Sri Lanka Diabetes Federation and the vice president of Sri Lankan Medical Association, Dr. Nimalka Sumanthilaka with us. A good evening to you, doctor.
Good evening.
And as I began, we're going to talk about a topic a lot of people discuss these days, obesity. It's a lot to do with our lifestyles, and something we spoke last week also, doctor mentioned about our lifestyles changing over the last 3 to 4 decades. Doctor, if you could describe what obesity is and how it has taken over the entire globe.
Yes, it is first of all, we must say that it's a chronic disease. It's a disease state where you have accumulated more fatty tissue in your body over and above what's required, and there is chronic inflammation and lot of changes in your hormones happening inside your fatty tissue. So it's a chronic disease state characterized by being more than your ideal weight by accumulation of lot of too much fat, excess fat in a very simple manner. So as you can see, then how do we we need to measure obesity. I think most of you have heard about how do we measure. So there is an index called BMI, which body mass index, which you have seen, and anybody can calculate that in a very simple manner as shown in this thing. You take your weight in kilograms and get the height in meters and height squared, and you do a simple math and you get your BMI rate, right? So we'll be talking a lot about these things. So that's simply what we mean by obesity. It's a measurement of the amount of the body fat in the your body, and that's over and above the safe levels.
And what Dr. clearly mentioned is obesity is not a cosmetic concern. It's definitely something that a lot of people go through, and a lot of people think just because they look fat that they need to do something. No, there's a lot more to it, because the body fat does have a huge implication in how your system runs. Doctor, you mentioned about BMI. What is the ideal BMI, and what do people actually believe is the right number?
Okay, so once you do that calculation, so anybody between 18.5 and 24.9 or roughly 25, we take it as normal. But somebody who is 25 to 29.9 or 30, we take as overweight partially. Then above 30 is definitely obese, and if the value is above 40, we call it as very obese or morbid obesity, which is like very detrimental to your health. So that's the grading which we have shown here. And if I may put in another slide just to show the images, these 5 images, which one do you think is the correct BMI? Actually, it's the first one that is there, right? But in the South Asian region, a lot of people say, I have asked this in live audiences, most people say it's number 2, or some even say number 3 is a healthy looking. 4 and 5 everybody knows it's too much, but number 1 is the correct body image that you should be having. But there is a problem culturally here. I have had so many patients whom we have, when they get diabetes, I told you in a previous program, where the main problem is the weight and the changing lifestyle, which has caused this pandemic of type 2 diabetes, right? We call it even diabesity, the pandemic of diabesity, right? So when we reduce their weight and they start exercising and come down to this level, lots of peer pressure or public this thing, when they are going, say if they come to work in the office, people are asking, are you sick? You look haggard. That's the exact words some of the patients have told me. So there is a problem, the cultural misconception about body image. From small days, we know we like to get our babies very chubby, overfeed them, give sugary stuff, and so then they become overweight later in life, and then increased risk of diabetes, hypertension, and other problems. So we need to address this issue as well. That's why I'm trying to say at least the newer generation should have a correct perception of body image, and not being overweight is not fashionable or prosperous. Like some people say, they are very proud of their tummy sometimes. I know lots of us have it. We can't get rid of it sometimes because of our dietary habit, and there is a genetic component also, right? But we should strive to reduce that rather than generalizing it and taking it as a good thing.
And doctor, before we move into what we call a proper diet, or what we should take or what we shouldn't take or what we should avoid, the lifestyle per se has changed over the last probably half a century or so, from being in the 1950s, 60s to the new millennials, and how lifestyles have changed, the fast food and all of that. But as you mentioned during the previous episode about screen times that we spend, a lot of kids these days spend a lot of time on their computers or tabs or mobile phones or in front of a TV without actually being physically active.
And even all the playing or the games are online, interactive with the play. When those days when we used to get out and play cricket in the grounds or even on the roads, now they are all kids are getting together in a virtual environment online, speaking to each other and playing games. So times have changed. I mean, wonderful technology, but this is affecting the exercise component, which is really needed in children.
Something that we've always spoken about, that without we knowing, the computers have started controlling how we live life.
Yes, and then why this is happening, I have shown here in the slide the world obesity map. It's ever increasing, and the numbers in Sri Lanka. So it's about overweight. Quarter of the population, the adult population, is overweight range. About 10% obese, and mind you, the centrally obese. That's another thing. They may look thin, but their midriff, the abdomen is, has a lot of fat. That is also not good, because that contributes to what you call as insulin resistance, and that fat is not inactive. It produces lots of hormones, which affects your sort of satiety, your eating habits, your insulin resistance, and which can cause diabetes and aggravate other problems. So this is a fatty tissue, is also a very active organ which is producing lots of hormones, right? So that's the importance. In Sri Lankans, we have to watch out. So there is what happens? How do you collect this extra fat in the tummy or the body? So you take your body as a factory. Factory has a machine. We put the raw materials, the machine processes it, and then it comes out as a finished product. So our food is the raw material, body is the machine. We put in the raw material. What comes out is only half of what was put in. What happens to the rest? It's metabolized in different ways and stored as fat. So this is what is basically happening, as shown in the slide here. So if you put in more than what you burn, you gain weight. If it is neutral, you just maintain the same weight. But if you want to lose weight, you have to burn or lose more than what you put in. So that's a simple equation. So how do we do that? So we can say, if you want to burn say 500 kilocalories, so you take 250 less from what you are taking. A normal person in Sri Lanka might need about 1,800 to 2,000, depending on your activity level. Kilocalories, what we do a measure, you can read about the calories and check the values in different foods. Online you can check it. Then if you want to lose weight, you have to take in less than what is required to burn that extra. Then it will utilize your stores. Simple mechanism, right? So if you reduce 250 calories by food, and if you exercise and burn another 250, you have a net loss of 500. Then over time you are going to lose weight. But if you do the other way around, then it's going to collect over time and cause this obesity. So this is the basic what we call as the pathophysiology of what's happening in obesity, and then your lifestyle thing. Of course, in the interest of the evening, late evening, people can quickly look at these photographs that I am showing. I'm going to pass them very quickly. This is a village scene. This is Gall Road number 50, actual photograph early 1900s. Then what it might look these days, and then plenty of food in the supermarkets, what kids do, and the officers, and the modern evolution of man, what I used to call. So what did I show in quickly in those this thing, how vastly the lifestyles have changed over the years. From even doing your day, you don't have to exercise, say like those days, people never had gyms or anything to exercise, right? So, but there, as you can see, those two men who went hunting for their food, and then how much of energy or calories they would have burnt running behind that animal, and then killing that animal and preparing the meat. Then that would be the only food with whatever the fruits or the yams they can find for few days, right? So there was a balance. Even that lady preparing, getting the wood to light fire to prepare the food. So she's doing some exercise. Here what happens is we get it delivered, our food. We should at least go out and go for your lunch and come back, do some exercising, while that. So that the changing lifestyles, the modern world in the cities, the traffic situation, our exercise time is spent on the roads, few hours of the day. So then people don't have the time to exercise, and then due to the same reason, they tend to eat fast food, which are energy dense, a small quantity, less satiety. You don't feel that you had enough. You can keep on eating those stuff because they are high in fat and all that, but you are taking whole lot of calories, much more than what you need in energy dense all this fast food. So this is what has happened, and that is what we call as the modern evolution I was showing in that slide, where from a ape to the modern man it took millions of years, and our genes change over time and this thing. But from this modern lean man and the obese person, what you can see, it has happened over about 40 to 50 years. So our genes don't change. It's the environment and the way we live, the way what we eat, and our lifestyle has caused this pandemic, may I say, of this obesity as well, and then the diabetes and all the other associated problems.
And that's a important topic you brought us to, doctor, because obesity is not just one. It could lead to a lot of other complications in your system, isn't it?
It's the underlying cause of most of the problems, especially the type 2 diabetes, hypertension, your cholesterol, what we call as dyslipidemia, heart problems, strokes, all the non-communicable diseases. This has a role. Not the only reason, but it plays a major role. But the other way around is also really good. Here, as I am showing, if you can lose 10% of your body weight, if you are overweight or obese, these are the good the benefits that you can obtain. So you can reduce the diabetes related deaths by 30 to 40%. Your heart attack rate, your blood pressure comes down, your sugar levels will come down by 30%, your cholesterol comes down. So there are overall lots of good effects if you can reduce at least 10% of your, even 5% is enough for some people by a good diet and exercise. So we will, I think, drive this point that although you may be overweight, it's if you can lose not the ideal weight, that's what I was trying to say. So now people might think I must have a BMI of 23 or 24, I had to lose 40 kilos, which is not practical sometimes. But if you lose even 10 from your initial, whatever, say if you are 90 kilos, if you can lose 9 kilos at least, you can get all this benefit. Maybe your ideal will be 60, that's another question. But even 10% we should target if you are overweight or obese. If your weight is normal, if you are thin, then you don't lose 10%, no need to lose 10%. So that's the equation.
And that's something a lot of people needs to know, doctor, because as you mentioned, they always say, if you talk about BMI, they'll say, that's not practical, I can't lose so much of weight and all of that. But it's about taking small steps towards the right direction instead of giving up on everything. Because just like you mentioned, it's not just the physical attributes to it, psychologically also it affects, because some people might get bullied, especially school children. If they are too obese, the chances of them getting bullied in school and all that also do
Yes,
take place.
and then your perception of sometimes, this happens in the very obese, the BMI above 40 and all that, the personality problems, work related problems, even the practical difficulties that they face, even if they go to an institution, all that, and they been bullied sometimes, happens. So it affects psychologically as well.
And doctor, now you've spoken about what this is about, and we spoke about losing 10% of your weight would result in major developments in or resulting in risk reduction in most of the other illnesses. What do we do to do this? How do we go about it?
It's very simple. First, it's the lifestyle change, diet, exercise. Let's talk about the others later. It's I'm not going to talk about, I'm not a dietitian to talk about diet, but you can see from this you have to choose what's good on the right side, and the left side you have to fast food, you have to avoid. Then some people might ask, how do you quantify? So this was done for Africa actually, to say the different components in your plate. How do you choose? So carbs has to be fistful of carbs, right? So with the open hand, you have to take plenty of vegetables. Your protein should be fitting your palm, and then the amount of fat that you can take should be like your the thumb fingertip. So that gives a proportion, and then of course this plate, if you want to take it, half the plate should be will be green leafy vegetables and other vegetables low in starch. Reduce the carbs, the other half will be carbs and the proteins, and then little bit of dairy products, all that can be taken. So then we have the food pyramid, where you can say on the top of the pyramid you have to take very little of that, and the bottom part in moderate amounts. So it talks about the same. I hope people can get an idea about the time. So avoid energy dense, high calorie food stuff, fatty food, the sweets, and high carb, refined carbohydrates and sugars, right? Then now our diet, what we say, your dietary goals should be SMART, right? So what do you mean by SMART? S is very simple, which I said, like looking at a graph or a pyramid. Then it has to be measurable by your hand or the plate size or the cup or so many cups, very simple. Then achievable for that person. You have to be realistic. You can't tell a person who is in the city to run around the fields or something like that. You have to be realistic, and whatever the available foods you will have to manage in that, so their cultural background. So it has to be realistic for that person. So achievable and realistic goes hand in hand. The most important thing, it should be time bound. So whatever little change over a prolonged period of time is much better than a crash diet. People have New Year resolutions where December they overeat, and then January they say, oh, this year I'm going to cut down. By February, March they are back to square one. So that won't do, right? So it has to be time bound. At least you should follow it for years together. A small change for a prolonged period of time will be also good.
And doctor, you mentioned about resolutions. I think New Year resolutions, usually we hang on to it for about 10 to 12 days, and by the time the third week comes around, we forget about it, because that's unfortunately the way we have been. And doctor, you mentioned about intake of carbs, something we in Sri Lanka look forward to in all our diets. Take it bread, rice or roti or whatever that we would take. The quantity of that is always a lot more than what we should. Why is that?
Because culturally, rice has been our staple diet, and the availability of vegetables is not that great, and the proteins, traditionally people have been used to eating less proteins in this country. So that has resulted in, your satiety. From your younger days, you have been fed with lots of carbs, and your satiety comes with that. And if you eat less proteins, we have found out medically that when you are eating a lot of proteins, the amino acids will get the satiety faster, will give you the satiety faster than you stop eating. It's all to do with the brain. So the newest area of research happening is the central control of metabolism. Actually, the brain is controlling all this, how much you eat, the amount of food that you are taking in, and the amount of calories that you are burning, all has been regulated by the hormones in the brain. So this is a very important thing. So what you have been used to, people have got sort of, hooked on these things, but we can slowly change that by changing our lifestyle and the dietary patterns in a methodical manner.
And doctor, you mentioned about the food intake and the type of foods that we should do, and something that we have seen a lot of younger ones, the teenagers, fizzy drinks. How important is it, or how much risk does fizzy drinks carry when it comes to obesity?
A lot, because that's a sort of a hidden energy dense food. You will be surprised that some of these fizzy drinks contain about several grams of sugar, like 4-5 teaspoons of sugar, and even flavored milks and things like that, which are commonly used by our children. So if I share this slide, you can see, if you want to burn calories, if you cycle at 6 miles per hour, a 100-pound person, he burns only about 160 calories for half an hour, and other things, swimming, all that is shown, right? So if you have a fizzy drink, which is about 300 calories or something like that, 340 calories, basically you should run for about an hour to burn that. So you can see the scale of things. When it comes to, it's very easy to put in the energy or the extra calories, but it's very difficult to burn that. So there is always what we comes back to that mismatch we are talking about. So it's very bad. So actually the government has done a wonderful job through the Diabetes Federation and all our diabetes days. We used to talk about these things, and we have come out with the Ministry of Health has come out with the traffic light system, where you are warned when the high sugar level will have a red, hopefully you have seen that.
Yes.
So you should learn to read labels as well. That's also very important. Please read the labels, then you know the amount of calories and amount of fat and sugar in each food item that you will be taking, and there is warning also in the form of this traffic light system. Now actually it has reduced. Even the manufacturers, we are happy to say, has reduced the amount of sugar that they are putting in their drinks to make it amber from red. So it overall, as a population measure, that will in the years to come will have a benefit.
And that's something that we would like to share with everybody, because I think obesity is something, as doctor mentioned, is more of a pandemic. Just like COVID, it has taken over not just here in Sri Lanka, across the globe. You see this being a real big issue for everyone out there. And the ideal BMI that you should be in, as doctor mentioned, is between 18.5 to about 24.9 or 25 to be exact, or the ideal number that a lot of people say is 22. So that's something that you need to keep in mind and try and work towards it. As doctor said, as long as you do it for a longer period of time, at least for a year or so, then you will definitely see results. So that's something to keep in mind, something for everybody out there to keep in mind with regards to your food intake. Try and give up on your fast food and fizzy drinks. That's a no-no for sure. And for everyone who could actually find enough veggies, try and take at least half of your intake. If it's vegetables and fruits, the chances of you being in the ideal BMI is that much more greater. So it's time for me to say thank you to Dr. Manilka Sumannathilaka for sharing his expertise on today's episode about obesity and how to stay away from it and how to live a healthy life. because we spend a lot of time on in front of computers, laptops, or mobile phones, or for that matter televisions. So it's time for us to change ourselves, give it a good look in the mirror, see what we are doing, how do we change ourselves, make little steps towards the right direction. I think a lot of things will definitely change. It's time for me to say goodbyes on today's edition. See you same time, same place next week as well. It's bye-bye from me.